As you can see, I am broadcasting live from the surface of the sun because of the brightness. I don't know why it's so bright. Actually, it's raining outside, so I'm not sure why it looks like this. Actually, it's a big moment though. I believe this is my 100th episode. So it's a huge milestone, not just in my own life, but also I think in the history of the world. It's a huge moment. And I will I will now issue forth one celebratory honk of my horn. This is very exciting. Okay, are you ready for this? This is huge. Oh, I can't. Well, because my car is off, so I can't. The horn doesn't work because my car is. This is very sad, isn't it? This is pitiful. My one pathetic celebration I can't even do because the car is off. It's a very sad. Michael Knowles celebrated his 200th episode recently, and I think they threw like a parade for him, and he rode on a golden chariot attached to an elephant down the street, I believe. And here I am in my car in the rain with a broken horn, shouting into my webcam. That's my celebration. It's let's just move past it. Now, I'd like to turn your attention to a story, and I'm going to read a little bit of this to you. This is in The Hill. The headline is Planned Parenthood launches largest ground game in its history. It says Planned Parenthood's political arm is launching a massive effort to reach millions of voters in order to unseat Republicans at the state and federal levels. Kelly Robinson, National Organizing Director for Planned Parenthood Federation of America, says Planned Parenthood Votes is launching its largest ground game ever to turn out voters and educate them about what's at stake. We'll knock on more doors and reach more voters than ever before in a midterm cycle. Planned Parenthood and its partners say that it plans to reach 4.5 million voters before Election Day through advertising, door knocking, and other means. This ground campaign is in addition to the $20 million ad campaign that the organization announced in March. Now, the fact that Planned Parenthood is spending tens of millions of dollars to help Democrats get elected that's nothing new. They've been doing that for a very long time. But there is something different this time around. Something is a little bit different because actually the Republican Party is funding the effort. The Republican Party is funding the effort to unseat themselves. Okay? Just if you're wondering about how smart the Republican Party is, there you go. The Republican Party, which I should remind you has been in control of the government for 2 years, that Republican Party is funding Planned Parenthood and thus funding this effort to destroy them. But more importantly, they are funding also an effort to destroy babies. The government is continuing to hand hundreds of millions of dollars a year to a company that executes over 300,000 babies a year. I feel like I should repeat that figure just for emphasis. The Republican Planned Parenthood, sorry, I get them confused now because they seem very similar. Planned Parenthood aborts over 300,000 babies every year. And this is they claim that, abortion is only 3% of what we do, which is a total lie. It's a completely made up statistic. It's an absolute, total, complete lie. But it also doesn't even matter because whatever percentage of the overall thing it is makes no difference. The fact remains we can look at the raw numbers and see they kill 300,000 human beings a year. So the idea that, would anyone look at Jeffrey Dahmer and say, well, yeah, but serial killing, that was only like 5% of what he did. On a daily basis, it was only probably about 1%. No, we don't look at that. We don't look at the Nazi Party and say, well, the Holocaust was only like 30% of what they did overall. You think about everything else they did. It was really only. No, because all that really matters is the fact that they are murdering people, right? But the Republican Party, as they are in charge of the government, and have not only have they refrained from cutting off this taxpayer pipeline to this murderous organization, they've actually taken active measures to prevent the severing of that pipeline. And for that reason, it must be said that the Republican Party is funding Planned Parenthood. The Republican Party is taking money out of your pocket and putting it into the blood-soaked hands of baby killers. This is not just a Democrat initiative anymore. This is a Republican initiative. And this is, this is more than just cowardice. Because the cowardice of the Republican Party gets a lot of attention. We all know that the Republicans are a bunch of cowards. And so, that's true. But they're also idiots. And I think that the idiocy of the GOP should get its due as well here. That the Republicans are funding the Democrat Party while they fund abortions. Because Planned Parenthood, despite being a publicly subsidized organization, is somehow allowed to funnel millions of dollars back into the coffers of Democrat campaigns. So in the past, when it had been the Democrats in charge of this, this is a great deal for the Democrats, because what they could do is they could take money from you, give it to Planned Parenthood, and then Planned Parenthood would wash it and give it back to them. I mean, great deal, right? I don't see how it could possibly be legal, but it is a great deal. The Republicans had a chance to have had many chances to put an end to this money laundering operation, but they chose not to. It's incredible. Well, it's not incredible. That's what makes it incredible. What's incredible is that it's not incredible. It's incredible that Republicans could be so inept, so stupid, so spineless, so gutless, so oblivious, so clueless, and yet they could be all of those things to such a degree, unsurprisingly. Now, it is true that Trump did partially defund Planned Parenthood a few months ago by changing a few of the Health and Human Services rules. Planned Parenthood will now be deprived of like $50 million a year in tax funding. And that's fine. That's good. Nice. But that's not even a drop in the bucket, because it still leaves $500 million a year that Planned Parenthood will receive. Before it was $550 million. Now it's just $500 million. $500 million of tax money a year goes to Planned Parenthood. We gave Republicans total control of the government, and they have not even managed to put a stop to this. They haven't even managed to put a stop to the insanely unethical practice of funding abortion conglomerates, which should have been square one. They should have got that done in the first week, on the first day. If they really are a pro-life organization, think about it. The Republicans, they claim to be pro-life, pro-small government, and pro-financial responsibility. Well, they would only need to be one of those things to defund Planned Parenthood. If they were just one of them, they would have gotten it done in the first week. Yet they claim to be all three of those things. They claim that those three things are their guiding principles, and yet they have provided us no evidence whatsoever to prove that. By the way, let me just address one thing briefly here, because this is what's always said anytime we talk about Planned Parenthood funding, or funding Planned Parenthood. The defenders of the baby killers will argue that, well, taxpayers aren't actually funding abortions, and they're not really funding the political campaigns, because the tax money doesn't go towards those things. You see? That's the argument. And that argument is about as credible as it's only 3% of what they do. Again, the thing is, both of those arguments are not only false, but irrelevant. That even if they were true, it wouldn't make a difference. But they're not true. And the thing is, to even begin to accept that argument, we'd have to trust Planned Parenthood. Okay, because Planned Parenthood, they're the ones telling us that they're not using any of this money for these other things. Can we trust them? No. Because Planned Parenthood is run by filthy, disgusting, hideous liars, and we can't trust anything they say. And certainly any attempts to regulate them or investigate them or check up on them, those are always rebuffed. abortion is the least regulated industry since slavery. So it's hard to know if anything they say is true. But in any case, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because money is fungible. So if I'm doing two things, A and B, and you give me money for A, but not for B, you've obviously financed both. Okay? Because the original money that I had before you helped me out, that would have been split between the two. But now all that money can go entirely to B because you've taken care of A. That's what it means for money to be fungible. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, let's say that just by way of example, let's say that that I want to go on an expedition to Antarctica to club baby seals to death. Let's say that's the main thing I want to do down there is I just want to go to Antarctica, find a bunch of baby seals and beat them to death. That's what I want to do. Okay. But let's also say that while I'm there, I'm going to feed penguins as well. I'll do that also. Now, let's say that I only have a certain amount of money to spend on this humanitarian mission. I don't have enough money to do both things right now. I can't finance it. As it stands, I cannot finance both the seal clubbing and the penguin feeding. Then let's say that you come by and you announce plans to give me a large sum of cash, but only for the penguin feeding because you very much disapprove of the seal clubbing. Now, thanks to you, all of my own supply of money can go towards beating baby seals to death since you're taking care of the other half. So even though you gave me all this money and you said, now I don't want one penny of that to go towards beating seals. Now I know I'm giving money to someone who's going to go, I'm giving money to a person who's going to go beat baby seals, but you better not use any of that money for that. Do it for, use this money for the other thing. Even though I said that, or even though you said that, you still have funded both things. Now, of course, that's ridiculous, though, because you would never give me money for a trip to Antarctica if you knew that I'd be spending a large portion of my trip murdering baby seals. And if you refused to give me any money, and then I said, well, you must hate penguins then. The penguins are going to starve. You're telling me you don't want to fund the feeding of penguins? What's wrong with you? Well, then you would simply point out that there are many other ways to support the penguin population without funding an expedition whose primary purpose is to murder baby seals. That's what you would say. But the economics here are still the same. If you give me money for one, you give me money for both. So just like if you pee in one side of the pool, you have peed in both sides of the pool because that's how water works and that's how money works. So we are financing abortions. We're financing a lot of them. That's the reality. Your tax money goes towards killing children. It's that simple. There's no way around it. So anyone who defends the subsidizing of Planned Parenthood, they should at least defend it honestly. And so our money not only goes towards killing children, but it also goes towards funding the Democrat Party, which means that the Republican Party is not only subsidizing the killing of children, but they are subsidizing the political campaigns of their opponents, which means that the Republican Party's continued funding of the abortion industry is the greatest act of not only political cowardice and betrayal, but the greatest act of political stupidity that I think we've ever seen in our lifetimes. But what else can you really expect from such a collection of empty suits, liars, and pushovers, which is what the Republican Party is? And I'll leave it there. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for listening. Godspeed.